Good morning. For anyone out there that doesn't believe that this current world belongs to Satan, I got a beachfront property in Idaho to sell you. So it's become quite apparent that when somebody has something to share or has something to talk about, things will start to occur to prevent that from happening. Now, you've seen firsthand the in and out that no other platform I'm on does. Okay, with Corey, guests come in all the time. No one gets kicked out. For some reason, this series has been fraught with that particular problem constantly. Today is no exception. It's been happening all morning. She'll come in, she'll get booted out. So we are going to try the Facebook approach like we did last time. And hopefully that'll work. She's backstage now. I'm going to bring her up. This is Jan. We are going to hope that she stays on screen long enough to says what she got to says. But I was telling them that this seems to be the running theme when someone has something that they're going to be getting into that they probably weren't planning on getting into.
Yeah.
So if you get booted again, for me it'll be 100% confirmation that there's going to be some crazy stuff talked about today. And if it happens, I'll call you on Messenger and we'll. Yep, there we go. Proof. If you ever needed confirmation that the devil does not want you to discuss your life, look no further than this program. I kid you not. This is insane. So here we go. I'm going to call her. I'll just call you on Messenger. I'll call you on Messenger. Okay, you can see me now. Yep. Can you see me? Okay, and you can hear me? And you can see my disgusting background? Okay, I'm going to boot you out the other room so that you're not in that other room. Okay, guys, so here's what we're going to try and do. We're going to share her screen. I'm going to try and take my picture off of there too because I don't want to be seen on there. There we go. But you guys, no, I'll be seen twice. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, and you can hear me still.
Yes.
Okay, and can you guys hear her? Please let me know in the audience if you can hear her. I'm going to equalize the screen. There we go. If you guys can hear her, please let me know. Give me a minute, Jan. You might not be able to read the comments, but I'll let you know if they ask any serious questions of you. Let's see here. Come on, people. Tell me if you can hear her. Okay, good. She's low. Yeah, of course you're low. That would make all the sense in the world. This is what happened last time. She is very soft-spoken, so don't get mad at her. She doesn't know how to scream. You may have to speak up a little bit, unfortunately. I know it's outside of your character. Okay. So I'm going to leave her on the screen by herself in all her glory to give a 1 or 2 minute spiel, little synopsis of your story. Little. Let the nerves take you over and make you want to quit early. That's okay. Give her a small synopsis of your life, and then we'll come back on and we'll dive in. Don't be nervous. It's only me. It's a video call.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Here she is, guys. Jan.
Hi, I am Jan Robertson. I am one of 3 children, and I was born and raised in the mountains of Virginia, in the Appalachian, in the heart of coal mining country. My dad was a coal miner. My brothers are all disabled coal miners now. And I moved out of the mountains when I was in my teens, and I wanted to find my way in the world. And so yeah, I'm in Western Kentucky now. I've been here for 20 years, and I'm happy to be on the program.
That was quick. Thank you. That was very quick. Don't be nervous. I can tell that you're nervous. Okay.
I am very.
I did turn the music down. I got that click there. So it's lower because she has a quiet voice. You guys are just gonna have to do some really attentive listening. Okay? So here's the thing. I'm gonna turn it down some more. Say something so people can tell me if it's a good mix now. Say something. Anything.
Okay.
There we go. All right, good. I think you're louder.
Good?
Yeah, that's good. That volume. Talk to me in that volume. Act like you're mad at me, and then you can get a little volume.
Okay.
I'll get you mad. I can make you mad if you
Please
prefer.
don't.
Okay. Okay. You're a coal miner's daughter.
Yes.
Well, I'm proud to be a coal miner's daughter.
And we were extremely poor growing up, but we weren't in the things that mattered.
Mm-hmm.
My parents met when they were teenagers, and they got married, and by 21 my mom and dad had 4 kids. So I am the only daughter with 3 brothers, and at the time I thought, how did this happen to me? Like, why don't I have anybody to hang out with? So, I don't have any sisters. It's something about the culture in the mountains that it's just different having a daughter than it is a son, and almost as if having sons can help you do your work on the mountains, and they're going to be able to provide and so forth and so on. And having a daughter is just like more of a she'll marry somebody, and then just basically, let's not get pregnant until you get married and find you a good coal miner.
The handoff. It's a handoff.
Yeah. So even though I was the only daughter, and you would think that I would have been like the princess, no, that was not the way it was. In fact, I basically were hand-me-downs to my brothers. I didn't know that I was poor, or I just didn't care because I had what mattered. But even in my own family, I was an oddball, and that has been my theme in this world, just period. It's just me, and I'm okay with that. Like, I've learned to accept it and use it, because really it's me and God.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't raised up in church. I was an adult, which is uncommon. Most people who have an experience and come to know the Lord is done earlier in life. And so I didn't get saved / baptized until I was older. I was pregnant with my son. But I knew God in the mountains. Like, he revealed himself to me in my circumstances, in my surroundings. We were poor. We didn't have the means to, we didn't have toys. So we entertained ourselves by making like a fort out of grapevines.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned, 14, almost 15 years of age, I got a job and I went to work. I worked long before I could drive, and I worked to help out my family. So that was basically my parents instilled a work ethic. So I was born and raised among these boys, and I played, and they didn't allow me the ability to have epic meltdowns. I was mansplaining before that was ever even a
That
thing
thing.
because I had to in order to communicate with my
Yeah,
brothers.
yeah.
And there was one experience where my oldest brother, his girlfriend dumped him after Valentine's Day, and he says, why, what's the problem? And I told him I had to explain to him, so I sort of became like a bridge between how guys think and communicate for women, for girls. And I
You're
explained
the
to him,
code talker.
yeah, basically, I was like the in-between person. I developed these skills that I didn't really know I needed, but they've come in handy my entire life. Like God knows what He's doing. So, yeah, I explained to him. I said, imagine if there was a fishing day where all the guys, everybody loves fishing. Say all of your friends got new tackle boxes, new rods, new reels, all of this, and you got nothing. That's the way it is for Valentine's Day. You didn't get her flowers and she's mad at you about it. That's what it is. So, just breaking it down to where they can understand what, is going on with the
The
female.
thinking. So
I
what
don't know it for myself sometimes. I confuse myself because my wiring,
is
I
weird?
yeah, I learned to, think like a boy.
So
And,
since you thought
I'm
like a
very,
boy, since you think like a boy,
yeah.
what was because of that, how did that make the relationship between you and your father play out?
My parents are very happily married. I had a blueprint to what is closest, I would say, to a fairy tale marriage
Mm-hmm.
relationship as it can possibly get on
Mm-hmm.
this earth.
But
My
how was the
parents,
relationship between you and dad, though? I'm not talking about the marriage,
good,
but you and
good.
father.
My dad is a wonderful man. My mother is a wonderful woman. I was blessed, so blessed. We were content with what we had. We didn't have a lot, but we did in the things that mattered,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So I didn't have the Nintendo video gaming system like everybody else, but I had a mountain to go
Mm-hmm.
play on.
Yeah.
I got to go pick wild raspberries and smush them up and make jelly. Put them on ice cream or whatever. That just God's bounty in nature.
So
I would help my dad go pick ginseng off the side of the mountain. And ginseng is an amazing, amazing plant because it's temperamental. And I
like
believe that
females.
yeah, I believe that God put it in the mountains because it's expensive,
To buy.
get.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese people love it. But it's also it only grows in certain circumstances. It's got to be in such a direction on the mountainside, and it can't get more than this much sunlight. And if you tried to grow it and like baby it like a potted house plant or whatever, then it's not worth anything because the more gnarly it is, the root of it, of course, the more potent it is. So
It's exactly like a woman.
you cannot artificially do anything with this.
Perfect. Yeah,
So
I agree. Perfect. Just like a woman. I'm going to call women ginseng from now on.
oh my goodness. Well, I mean, they are expensive.
I just see, like I said, ginseng. Okay, we have a new term for women today. You're ginseng. Okay, you're expensive, and you need certain environments to grow, and you're very temperamental. So
difficult
I
to
think I've broken the code to women. Thank you, Jan, for giving me that bit of that. I just need a little bit more info, and now I have it. Women are ginseng. It's crazy that I never thought of them as being gnarly. Well, I did. I just couldn't say it out loud because I gotten killed. But you're on screen, so you are now my card to say it.
Okay.
You're my woman card, like I'm your black card.
I will allow it.
Okay, there you go. So, question again. Question number 2.
Okay.
What were the precursors that led up to you becoming a mother? If you had,
Well,
if your environment was so picturesque of a perfect relationship and everything was working fine, what were the circumstances that led you to become a young mom?
okay. Well, I was, as I said, we were very poor, and I was one of 4. And when my my permanent teeth grew in, they were crooked, and I was basically an ugly duckling, and I was made fun of a lot. So for that reason, I couldn't do the usual thing, which I didn't want to do like everybody else anyway, because of the fact that even among my brothers, I can fit in only so much because I'm a girl. And so I couldn't go the normal route of because I'm a girl and I'm just kind of like there. I had to leave to find my place in the world because I couldn't just marry some coal miner and proceed with the way that most in that part of the world does, like the usual typical scenario. You get married and you stay on the mountainside and that's all you know. I didn't want that for myself because, I was interested in art, and I was the only person that I knew who had an understanding that the Ninja Turtles were named after artists.
Mm-hmm.
I went telling my brothers, and I was like, "Shut up, Jan." But at the end of the day, I moved away to find work and to live on my own. I packed up all that I had in a little small S10 trunk, and it was a clutch, and I drove all the way across Kentucky, and I got a job. And then when I got a job, because I can't work in the coal mines, and I'm too ugly to find someone to marry, and I had to just like figure it out on my own. So I did, and I moved to Western Kentucky, and I got married. And at the time when I got married, I felt like my husband was way too good looking for me. He was very attractive, and I was unattractive, and I didn't have the money to correct my smile or to do anything, with my looks. So I was thankful that I found somebody that was willing to meet me, and that he was like doing me a solid as a not so attractive person. And then we got married. Like, I was just thankful to have a dude, a man, honestly. And as soon as we got married, before the ink dried, he was done. He says, I don't have to date you anymore or do anything as far as like romantic or anything like that because we're married now. You're not going anywhere. He knows because of my own parents. Maybe it was very naive of me to think that if I behaved like my mother in the perfect marriage that I saw, I mean, this couple, it's almost gross, honestly, to watch how much they love each other. They never argued. She knew her place, and she was okay with these, stereotypes or the roles of the woman and the roles of the husband. they were okay. There was no beef with them and any of that stuff. So they had such a good relationship that I thought if I mimicked what I saw growing up, that my husband would be like my dad and we would have a happy marriage, which wasn't the case. So, but I made a vow. And in my youth, and playing in the woods and coming up on rattlesnakes and, learning about God in nature, the truth is important to me and God is important to me because in my mind, and I know this is terrible to say, but it's how I feel. I was born alone. I was alone even among my own family. I don't fit in with them. I'm going to die alone. And I'm okay with that because God is with me. I got God. So I can pack it up at 18 years old and move to a totally different area where I know nobody and figure it out because God's coming with me. Me and God, we got this. So after I got married and I realized that this is not a good relationship for me to be in, I was so disillusioned that my brother, he pulls me to the side. Now, he failed third grade, and I caught up with him. There was less than, not quite a year between my youngest brother and me, and then my middle brother failed. So I caught up with him in school, and we went from third grade all the way up through high school together. And people thought we were twins. So he was special to me because we had that bond where we were in every class together and so forth and so on. So he pulls me to the side during the Thanksgiving event or whatever we had went home for. And he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, it's like your spirit has been broken. Is he beating you?" And I said, "No, absolutely not. He knows better. I'm 5'9", and I'm 150 pounds. Like, I'm a pretty solid, heavy, like, whatever you want to call it.
Mountain
But,
girl.
I'm tough, yes. I mean, and I evidently had lost that spark or something that my brother knew me well enough to notice to pull me to the side and say, "What's going on?" And I said, "I'm fine. That getting married, you don't understand because you're not married, but there's bills and there's responsibilities and all this." I did not want children. He did not want children because it wasn't a healthy relationship. So when I skipped a pill and I got pregnant, I was surprised. I thought I was dying of cancer. Honestly, I was young and I didn't know because, growing up in the mountains, think about this. I had never seen a rainbow until I was a full-grown woman. I can tell you where I was when I saw a rainbow for the first time. Like, it's memorable to me because you've got these mountains that shield you from the sky, so you see just a small little piece.
Mm-hmm.
I was a grown woman when I saw the ocean for the first time. I always wanted to go and see the ocean. I was a grown woman before I had steak. I was a grown woman before I saw lightning bolts through the sky. Just an entirely different world that you don't see until you come out of the mountains. Like Moses told Abraham to go out to the place where I will show you and find your own area. That's what I felt like I had to do. And when I moved here and I got married and it was a bad relationship and then I found out I was pregnant, I was devastated. It was terrible. But everything happens for a reason. And I was really very sick. So I knew this would be my only child. And I promised, I prayed and I cried and I promised God, if if he would just let me have this baby, that I would be like Hannah, and I would raise him up and make him the change that I would want to see in the world. You know, that through my own child, if you will let me live, God, because I was that sick. I mean, I got sent home. My insurance at some point, the hospital was like, you need to go. We're just going to send a home health nurse to give me like my backpack of IV. I was so sick in the refrigerator, and I had to like deal with it myself because the insurance was like, you have to go home and die or do something because you can't just hang around for months at a time in the hospital.
Did they ever tell you what you were sick with?
No. And you know what happened? A mountain doctor fixed me. Told me, here, you take this medicine and you keep it in your system. It tells you you're supposed to take it, you know, it was Phenergan, or I forget what the Zofran, but you're supposed to take it X amount of times a day. Don't let it out of your system. Get up in the middle of the night every 3 hours, even though it says every 6 to 8 hours, whatever. They told me there what the doctors, you know, I'm next to Vanderbilt and Nashville and St. Louis. Like, all of this is like 2 hours from me. So all of these, you know, the things that I thought would be helpful to me in a busier, bigger area than the mountains and coal mining country didn't do me any favors. So, but after I had my son, he was a preemie and he was tiny, but I did what I said I was going to do. Like, I made a vow to my husband. I said, for better or worse, there was no out for me to say, well, you know, I don't like how you're treating me, and I don't feel like I didn't see a breach of our marriage covenant. And until I saw that, if and when I was prepared to die in this marriage and do what I had to do, what I promised God, what I promised my husband I would do in our family unit.
So did he breach the contract?
He sure did, yeah. And when he did, I was floored. I didn't even know where to begin because I'm 8 hours away from my closest relative. I got nobody and nothing. What do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, but at the time, but I knew, Marlon, this is what gives me peace, and it got me through. And people have asked me, if you had it to do over, would you still be the type of woman that you was while you were married? Meaning, you know, taking care of my husband, taking care of my child, doing what I saw my mother do for me and my dad in her life. So he cheated on me, and it just shocked me because I knew he was many things, but I did not know. I did not live in fear that he was out running around. I didn't watch his every move.
Why not?
I trusted him. Why? I trusted him. I figure what's done in darkness will come to light.
So it never crossed your mind, with the view that you had of yourself, that was a possibility?
No, I didn't. I felt like if it happened, you know, I know he was a difficult man, and I knew he had his faults. He was diagnosed about 6 years into the marriage with bipolar disorder, and it was a struggle to get him to take his medication because he came into church one time with myself and my son and his mother to show me a new gun he had bought. He brought a shotgun into a church service.
Hey, you shouldn't be. That's mountain people stuff, isn't it?
Well, this is not in the mountains
Yeah,
anymore.
but
Like
you take the habit with you. That should be okay with you.
he was not a mountain man, though.
You
That's the thing.
influence people.
Maybe. So he, and I was like, why are you obsessing? Like, what is going on? The medication that he was on took him up into the clouds, and according to his doctor, a lot of divorces happen, a lot of marriages end because people who have bipolar disorder will trying to regulate the medication to where they're like functional and they're not mood swings and
It's tough.
angry one minute. Yeah, is so doing that causes them to get a sense of being unbothered. So they will go and gamble away their whole life savings, or they'll, buy up a bunch of guns because guns never lose their value, or they'll do whatever, like whatever. They'll wipe out the whole bank account without any regard to the fact that we don't have any food left and there's 2 weeks until payday and our son needs this and that. There's no reasoning because they've got medication that's messing with the stuff in their brain.
So you and him end up getting a divorce after what? How long in the marriage? How many years?
16 years.
16 years. And your son by that time is how old?
He's 14.
14.
He came along two years after we were married, and he was at 9 years old, my only child, and like I said, he was a preemie, but he grew, and he grew so healthy. And back then, even though it doesn't seem like that long ago, as opposed to times now, it really was like it might as well have been when I was growing up in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 30s, because there's such a difference now as far as the digital age. And we had those cameras that taking baby pictures with those big block cameras and stuff. But anyway,
Polaroids.
he was diagnosed at 9 years old. I noticed a thing where he would just kind of disappear for a second. I don't know how to explain it, man. It's like his soul
Left.
leaves his body for a second. His eyes just go, something happens. So I didn't know what it was, but I noticed it. And my mom, I said to her when we were home, we did it. Visiting, I would get to go home maybe once a year, if that, and never during holidays, except for the first year that I was married, because my husband wouldn't let us. It was a long trip, and why do that when he's here and his family, his whole family are here? So I went home. My son, I couldn't go home by myself because it's an 8-hour trip, and so my husband had to be there and all that. My son did that blanking over thing in front of my mother, and I said, "See, Mom, he does this all the time. What is this?" And she said, "Perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. You did that all the time when you were young."
Was it seizures?
It was epilepsy.
Yeah, my brother has those.
He had it out on the football field, but not the grand mal seizure.
Yeah.
He had one of those, and it was like a breakout seizure. And that's a difficult medication to get.
Very. Mood swings are crazy with it. Yeah.
But learning about my son's epilepsy, like my ex-husband never went to the doctor, has never met his doctor. You don't have to worry about those. You can go get your driver's license, son. No worries. No, you can't. So I had to constantly fight against basically my son's dad to mold my son into a good, godly man that I wanted to see for somebody else that I didn't have. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But in the divorce, which I know seems like a terrible thing, and God hates divorce, but the only way I would have called it quits and given up and not tried to stay in it, even though I was unhappy, like an ox in the field with my blinders on, Marlon, back and forth, day after day, year after year. I worked full time, I cleaned, I cooked dinner, I washed clothes, and we did it again the next day. That was my life for 16 years. And when I realized he was cheating on me, my son and I caught him on my son's birthday, on his 14th birthday. And we were devastated. But I knew this is it. This is him opening my cage door. And in a way, not that I was happy that my marriage was over or that my family had just been ripped apart by infidelity, but in a way, it was almost as if my husband, albeit not in a good way, jumped on the grenade. Like he could have done it differently for both of us to go find our happiness. Because he was unhappy, I was unhappy, and we was just doing what we had to do. So
Okay, so how is the relationship between your son and his dad, if there is one?
there is one. My son's a good kid. Like I worked hard to make him the type of person that he is.
Hmm.
He was my life's work, like Otter and Clay. And by virtue of divorce, I was able, God, like things happen for a reason, even though they don't make sense. And it seems like, who am I? I'm from the mountains. What can God do with me? I don't have any money. I don't, I'm ugly. I don't have, I wore braces for 10 years. While I was married, I went in, I saved. I did not know at the time that my paycheck was paying everything. And what my husband was doing with his money was his own separate thing. So I didn't know that I could live just fine on my own income. By virtue of being poor, learned how to be content with little. Like I'm not a materialistic person. I don't have anything. I don't know if you can see on my walls. I got chairs, couches everywhere because I need those. Because I got a bunch of teenagers that are constantly coming to my house. Because I am the mom they don't have.
Hmm.
I didn't know how prevalent deadbeat moms
Were
are. And
there's no such thing. So
so
you tell me those are the ginseng that didn't get the right growing conditions,
evidently,
probably.
I don't know what happened here and there, but it seemed like after my marriage ended, it it occurred to me that my son's whole entire friend circle, their moms weren't in the picture. And even though, things happen and all of the respect that I had established among my coworkers, among the other parents, which, this is not my home. I'm not from here. I don't belong here. I don't like it here. But this is where my son, it was his home. It is his home. And so I'm here because he's here.
Do you consider yourself the ugly duckling still?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. I
Before you answer that, would it matter if anyone else thought otherwise?
you know Marlon, when I first found out my husband was having an affair, and he told me, he said, well, you're gonna die alone. Nobody else is gonna want you. For 16 years he told me I'm not smart, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm ugly, so I went through a lot, but all of that was for me, for my own good reasons. So at first I thought, oh, I'm gonna die alone now. Nobody else will want me, and I'm ugly and I'm dumb and all of this. But within a week, my husband's long-time friends, people were calling me, texting me, who are you? My testimony, the woman I was when I was married, was not oblivious to anybody but me and my husband. All of his family, all of his friends and their wives and kids, and all of the people, his people that was around me, saw what type of woman I was. So if he let me go, then let me just hook you up with my cousin over here. He's looking for a good woman. So then it became, I remember the first compliment I got, because when you go for 16 years, like an ox in the field with your blinders on, just plowing along, not paying attention to if people are eyeballing you, and then suddenly you get this attention out of nowhere, you don't know what to do with it. So I had a man tell me, he said, you are a beautiful woman. And he's standing in front of me, and he said this to me, and I said, you got eye problems? Like, why are you saying this?
So your answer is no?
I didn't, yeah. Well, no, basically I didn't know how to accept a compliment, and it was foreign to me.
I get that, but you're avoiding the question. You're not answering the question. Would it matter if someone else thought differently about the way you saw yourself? You said that you still think you're an ugly duckling. The question was, would it matter if someone else thought differently?
No. And
why
the
not?
reason why is because I like that person. I like the ugly duckling. So I was not able to be the cheerleader and twirl my hair and bat my eyelashes and make somebody do what I wanted them to do. I instead, because
I see it now.
I wasn't having, boys beating down my door to take me out on dates. I learned how to do everything.
You learned how to believe lies is what you did.
I learned.
No, you can avoid that. You can avoid that all you want. What you learned to do your entire life, you have learned how to believe a lie and make it a part of you.
But what's wrong with being an ugly duckling?
That's not my point. You believed a lie. Here's the thing. What, you like lies?
No, I like the ugly duckling.
But then you love the lie. Let me explain why I say that.
Okay, yeah.
Do you believe that God places any value on your looks?
No.
Yet still, you embrace the fact that you're an ugly duckling.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. And you find no problem with that.
I've thought a lot about this since we talked before, and I think that um, it's easy to confuse humility with cowardliness.
The word ugly isn't about humility in any shape, form, or fashion or function.
But it's a subjective word, and you may think one way at something like art.
But you're not art, you're creation.
I,
Do you
because
get
I
where I'm
didn't,
going? Do you get where I'm
yeah,
going? Where am I going?
but because I didn't look like the standard
Again,
conventional beauty,
it is ingrained
um,
deep. It's ingrained deep.
because I didn't, though, I learned how to use my brain, Marlon.
But
So
it's in
now, if I wanted to do other things, like it's too late in my life to become
hmm,
too haughty in spirit or to think that I'm some
wow.
glorious creature.
Hmm.
Because what matters is on the inside.
I see a lot now. I mean, we talked before, okay? We've talked before. And this is just food for thought. I'm not trying to make your mind change about something, but I want you to think about this. You're a reasonable person. Um, when somebody hears something about themselves and they don't hear a counter argument to it, and they hear it for long enough, it becomes who they innately will continue to see themselves as, regardless of what the truth is. Because whether you think it's subjective or objective, there is a factual proof out there. You're into art, right? You're into art.
Yes. Mhm.
So am I. I got my degree in it. I know a little bit about dimensions and facial structure when drawing. I learned about the Renaissance artists and how they formulated their structures for people's faces and what they in the antiquities created as beauty. And that form stayed fairly true for the last 700-800 years. Okay, maybe even more.
Okay.
Um, so your statement about the standards of twirling the hair, cheerleader thing. I want you from an artistic position to understand something about you particularly. Okay, and you can go back and verify this factually if you want by looking at every Renaissance painting, all of it. Go and look at it yourself. By the standards of art, by the standards of facial measurements, shape, form, dimensions, symmetry, by all these measurable standards, you do not fit any category of ugly, like zero category of it. Zero. I can bring up every photo, every sculpture from Michelangelo to Da Vinci to today, and zero of those paintings, zero of them, would prove you to be what you see yourself as. Okay, so let's start with something factual first off. So, what you believed is what people said, not what was true. And you've created in your mind a falsehood that you took everywhere with you. And when people said it back to you, it became a negative, although in your mind you kept saying it all the time anyway. You've been saying that about yourself since you were kicking rocks in the mountains. You got married under the context that I'm ugly and I'm glad that I landed somebody finally who thought. But when he kept saying it, it somehow why did he keep saying it? Because you believed it. He's saying what you believe. You should be happy that he's reiterating what you believe. That should have made you happy if you really believed it. He didn't really believe that, but you believed it because you've heard it enough, believed it. By the templates of all the things I've laid out, there is zero that you can put yourself in the ugly category with. And I mean that
Now,
in no. Understand this. The structure of face you have now, you had when you were small. The same way when I looked at my pictures when I was younger, and you and I shared this, okay? I felt the same way when I got my first marriage. I thought, well, good, she took me off the market. No one else has to deal with my face. Felt the same way. So I'm not, you know, I'm not talking to you from a position of I've never been there.
oh yeah, I
We've
know.
had this discussion before. Okay.
Yeah. hmm
What I had to break through myself was looking at myself through my eyes versus looking at myself through one, reality, and two, God. Addressing myself in a manner or even viewing myself in a manner that's counter to what He is will keep me from many things that He has to offer. And I'll tell you why. Has He made anything ugly?
No.
Okay. Do you have any rights as the created to call what the Creator made ugly?
No.
So what makes you think that wearing ugly as a badge of honor is something that you have the right to do in light of God's rights?
I think I've never looked at it really that way as much as I have being accepting of the fact that because I did not look what at some
You're
point in
good.
time would not be the conventional look.
You're good. You're really good.
Because of that, God gave me something extra, you know? So I
Jan,
don't have to
Jan,
worry about it.
but you're not answering my question. You okay? You're better than me. I thought I was good. I thought I was good, but man, you're seasoned. you're, you're a veteran. So answer the question.
Mm,
What gives you, again, listen to the question carefully. What gives you the right to
I have
call
no right.
what God created as perfect ugly?
None.
So
None.
you want to have a relationship. This is consider it a marriage. You want to have a relationship where the husband is calling you beautiful, to look him dead in the eye and tell him, no, I'm ugly, and it's a good thing.
Hmm. I mean, I wouldn't prefer anybody to call me ugly, as
That's not the point. And
I
again, that's
think
not the
anybody
question.
would.
But that's, you see, again, that is so not the topic. I don't care what, we're talking very specific here.
Right.
You were in a marriage for years where the hubby
Yes.
called you ugly. And that reinforced what you thought.
Yeah,
Do you think it's right to be in a relationship? Because you said you have a relationship with God.
I do very much
Okay.
so.
If you are in a relationship with a person that calls you beautiful, but you constantly say, no, I'm a duckling, and that's a good thing. Do you think that would make the relationship grow or become stagnant?
It wouldn't be good, no.
But
Definitely.
you live in that relationship quite contently. Why? And we're not
Because
just talking about your looks, okay? We're talking about your view of your looks.
yeah, but I guess because I have put more importance on the things about myself that aren't shown.
But I want you to think, okay? Think what you're doing. You're not putting emphasis on the things that are not shallow. You're trying to cover the shallow with the things that you think are important. Because you still hold on to the shallow. You bring it up all the time. I watch your posts. You bring up the fact that you are not pretty all the time. You have built what I consider a persona on my accomplishments to compensate for the fact you think still that beauty is what I lack. And if I can let people know I lack beauty and I can see it because I've been told, the next person that says, "Oh, you're not that pretty," you'll be okay with because I already think that. Would you think the
So
same thing if
I'm
people
still
insulted your intelligence?
I love those compliments. Those
No,
I'll
I said,
take. I'll,
see? You see what I mean?
because that matters to me.
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point. You you're doing exactly what the opposite of following God is. I'll tell you why. You're putting all your emphasis on your deeds. All your emphasis is on your deeds. What I can do, what I can do. See what I can accomplish? See? In spite of, I can accomplish this, I can accomplish that.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, God is saying it has nothing to do with what you do, but everything to do with who I am and how I see you. And then you turn around and tell God, yeah, but that's okay, but how I see me is this. And so I'm going to put emphasis on how I do.
I mean, I have never actually, had to think in those terms of me telling God, no, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Like, that's not something that.
Now, because it's been something you've been doing for since young, it's part of you now. You built yourself there.
And how do you unbuild it?
By not thinking like that. You have to take his view of you. Okay, I'll tell you. First of all, change the way you talk. I don't mean you're soft spoken. I mean about yourself. Okay. I don't mean go in the mirror every morning and say I am beautiful. Look at me. That's not what I mean.
Because
Okay.
it's vain.
Yeah. Well, that's not what I mean. Your approach should be. It shouldn't even be a topic that you breach because if you really consider it inconsequential, whether you're beautiful or ugly is not even something that you should be concerned about. But at the same time, if a young man that just so happens to be sent by God gives you that compliment, you never know who you're turning away. Now, mind you, God will do this too. He's hilarious. He's a very funny man. He will tell you, all right, you think yourself as ugly, and I'm going to send somebody to enforce in you this version that I see. And he will send a man that says, you have no idea how beautiful you are, inside and out. And he'll say that to you. And the first thing you will do is say, are you blind? You need some glasses? And meanwhile, God is saying, wow, she
And he
really,
may have,
she really
to be
thinks
honest.
I don't think she is beautiful because I made her. Now, suppose, okay, let's go down the rabbit hole. You ugly. You're just ugly. Let's just go with that. You are like the last duckling that had nothing left over, empty reserves. They dumped every bad look upon you. Let's go with that. Let's just say that's the truth. Okay? You ugly, you're ugly. And a man comes up to you and his preference is ugly. And he looks at you and he says, wow, that's like the cream of the crop beautiful right there.
The top of the
The
ugly
top of
chain.
and I have to have her in my life. You would look at this man and deny his truth about you, knowing that he loves that. And he will treat you like a trophy wife. But because of your view of ugly, you miss out on a wealth of love.
I totally do. And I'm okay.
And that's right.
And that's sad.
But is it right? I don't care if it's sad, but is it right?
No.
So if it's not right, why do you hold on to that version of yourself and that view?
I didn't realize it was bad.
What's extremely bad?
More so that it was for my benefit. To be, if I can't be this, then I can be the one who can cook. I can be the one who can, you know, give money to the women's shelter. I can be the one
Hmm.
who can
Do. You can do.
compensate in other ways,
You
like
can
you
do.
said.
You can do. One day he'll ask you not to do anything but just be. And you have to be content with just being. Are you content with just being?
I don't know if I haven't been just being, to be honest with you, because it's been 7 years. When my son, and at the time, I understood that okay, I don't have to die alone now because evidently, at least a few people have reached out to me, not because of superficial, vain things about my face, but more because they saw how I was as a wife, they saw how I am as a parent, etc. So I shut those down because I needed to heal and
Heal from what?
I needed I was in a very not a healthy relationship for 16 years
Why
and I
was it?
didn't
Why
want
wasn't
to
it
jump
healthy?
into another one. Why?
Yeah, why wasn't it healthy? What made it unhealthy?
I wasn't treated well.
But you didn't treat yourself well. He was just doing what you were doing. How is it unhealthy if he's doing what you do? He was mirroring everything he saw you do. He never saw you treat yourself beautifully. He never saw you treat yourself as something that was valued. And he just regurgitated what he saw. So how was it a bad thing? Do you see how far your view of yourself can take you? Meanwhile, he said the same thing you thought about yourself. He said it. He said it out loud. The same thing you thought about yourself, but you didn't want to put emphasis on because you can do. But when he does it, that's a bad thing. When you do it, it's the truth.
Well,
How, Sway? How's that possible?
well, the to say that your looks are that important, not to
To them, but you can't decide that for them, my dear. You are you, but you can't decide that for someone else.
so I've had multiple opportunities since I've been single. Happily divorced is the way that I like to describe it because I do or I don't do as I, I feel, whether that's staying home all weekend, doing nothing, going to Nashville, going to St. Louis, going, um, whether, I want to stay in my pajamas and eat ice cream, or I want to get up and go run a marathon. I'm free. And
You're bound.
because I'm pushing all of this,
You're bound.
all of
You're
the,
bound. I'm telling you
and
now,
my,
you're not free.
and the clock is ticking.
It has nothing to do with the clock. You're not free.
I'm not.
Jan, listen. Jan, listen. It is not your looks you have to change. It's your viewpoint altogether about you. Not your looks, about you. Okay? When we take what God has created to be precious to Him and we assign our own value to it based on what we see, it automatically, right off the top, negates God's view in us. It doesn't negate His view coming from Him. It negates how we receive it because we will not take it. We will reject it. And we will think, but you do. Every time you talk about yourself the way you do, in your head, you do.
Undo it. Is
I
my
can
first
tell you
step.
how. But this is going to be your work, and it's not going to be easy.
And it's going to be something terrible.
Very, very terrible. Very terrible. It starts with this main thing: admitting that you were wrong to God for shunning His view of you and putting your view
I did,
of.
to be fair to
Well, now
you.
you know, so I'm helping you get out of it and
Okay, yeah.
helping yourself to understand that your view of you should be His view of you. Fearfully and wonderfully made. That has zero to do with your Renaissance look. Has zero to do with it. It has everything to do with your view of yourself from his perspective. And in his eyes, do you have to do anything to earn his love, his adoration, his salvation? Do you have to do anything? Do you have to be anything? Do you have to earn any accolades? Could you lose your face today and have just an eye that's closed and a mouth to earn his love? Will he call you ugly and say, but I still love you? Will he say that?
He would love me.
Okay. But he wouldn't even mention the fact that, oh, you're ugly, but I love you.
No,
That's not him.
he's not.
It's your view. You say, and you've said this multiple, you can go, but when you watch the interview again, you'll see how many times you've mentioned the fact that you're an ugly duckling. And it should break you because it's not true. Outside of the looks, Jan, it's not true. It became who you thought you are. And you started to do to compensate for something that you thought you lacked.
But, to compensate, I guess, to put the, to be more concerned, I guess, for respect than going and getting my nails done. Or
again, your idea of beauty.
Well, I'm just saying, like, in general, for my view.
Why wouldn't you go get your nails done?
I don't know. Just so other people could see it?
If you thought you were beautiful, you'd go get your nails done. If you thought you were beautiful, you'd go get your hair done every weekend. If you thought you were beautiful. And it had nothing to do with people because you thought you were beautiful. But because you thought, I'm not beautiful, why put lipstick on a pig? Your viewpoint, your entire life, has been built around a lie that one person, or multiple persons, or yourself told you. And you've built this persona, not your interactive persona, but your internal persona, around the idea that I have to mask what I think about myself with the doing of something that will impress people so they don't look and see what I think I see. You have built your entire, and that includes how you raise your son. Because if nothing else, I can raise a beautiful child. I may not be, but I can raise a beautiful child. I may not be this, but I can do that for some. I can do. That mindset will keep you from doing the very one thing that he's asked you to do outright, and that is rest. He only asked you to, he never asked you to look at yourself anyway. He never asked you to, not once. He asked you to come and rest. And when you rest, you don't come and, oh, well, let me get my hair done first. No pretty woman says that. And he doesn't say, come and rest. And then you say, well, hold, let me go get a facial reconstruction surgery so I can look better before I come rest. And he says, oh, yeah, you need to be pretty when you come rest with me. I don't rest with ugly people. Jan, your entire world, and this will, I guarantee you this, changing that one thing will stratosphere your relationship with God. Because you will let go of one of the biggest vices you've had since you were young. And that is putting your view of you above God's view of you, thereby making yourself God. Anything you put above God's view makes you more important than God.
Well, I didn't realize I was doing this. And I felt that I was putting myself last.
You're putting him first. That's the difference. That's you. Okay? This is the harder one. What you thought you were putting first, you were technically putting last. The true test will be coming to put him really first is foregoing everything, the compliments and the insults to the side. the works and the non-works to decide. His view of you is Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And that blood covers everything. Looks, works, views, people's thoughts, people's idea, your history, your future, your present, your kids, your mom, your dad, the mountains, the rainbow, the ocean, CPA work, the house, the chairs, the teens coming over, the men hitting you, the policeman always pulling you over for the one thing. All of it encompasses one very important thing that he needs for you to see. None of it, none of those things dictates his view of you. And all of those things will dictate your view of him.
Yeah.
Ugly duckling, swan, neither one of those matter to God. But it can indeed block you from him. And it has. This is the harder part here. And when I told you it was going to get hard, this is where the next step is. And everyone so far has had the same. It's you being forthright enough with him to admit that this is where you were. Known or not before, you know now.
Right.
The next step is admitting to him, yeah, I have put myself before you. And that's hard, especially when you I have no doubt you love God. None. Okay, I know. But that's where the hard part comes in, is that the fact you have to tell somebody that you love, that I put something before you and it's kept our love from growing.
Unintentionally.
And there you go. And that you've been doing it for years. But it's not like he's just going to say, well, fine, if that's how you see it, I'm just not going to. He still pursues. And he'll still be there. And he can take it, the fact that you didn't see yourself the way he sees you. But he'll continue to remind you that your view of you is not his view of you. And that will perpetually be how it is. Nothing you can do can change his view of you, but something you can do can definitely change your view of you, and thereby limit your relationship. So if nothing else that you take from today, and my intent was not to make this heavy like you were hoping to avoid, but I do leave everything open to him to tell me what needs to be said to people. And sometimes it's the most trivial thing he tells me to ask that turns into something monumental for some. Which is why I know that when things start to happen at the beginning, that the kicking out thing, every time,
It's important.
it's important. Every time.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to take this step. It was hard, to put myself on display like this. And for helping me to show me things I didn't realize that I need to work on.
So,
I appreciate it.
you know that having talked to me outside of this platform here, that we share a lot of similarities growing up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We could almost be siblings, really. Like we almost grew up in the same house, right?
Strange. Yeah.
So when I tell you I'm on this walk with you, I'm on this walk with you.
I know.
And it's not like I'm going to be, oh, we had the interview. Bye. My inbox is open. It's not a closed door. We've talked before. Because the next few steps are going to be you reminding yourself that that's not me. You have to start being intentionally saying that that's not me.
How did you get past it, or to change the way you view yourself?
It got me nowhere.
And you realized it
Because here's the thing.
right away.
No, not right away. I place a lot of emphasis on, and I told you, my smile, right? And I wanted it fixed for me because I didn't like how it looked. Then one day I gave up. I was like, no, I don't care anymore. I can't fix it anyway, and whatever it is, it is.
Right.
But then I
'Cause it's
was,
not.
yeah, but then I was unable to eat.
Oh.
Okay, then I couldn't eat. I went months with just liquids. I couldn't eat because the teeth they were cosmetic at that point. Um, and in that time that I couldn't eat for 4 months, it was all liquids, bone broth and soup.
Ugh.
Okay. Even bread, I couldn't chew bread. Everything hurt to chew. And the difference between me doing it for my looks and doing it because it would end up killing me was it left the realms of my vanity to being around for my kids. And I thought, no, I'll just ask him to try and make something happen. So I asked him if there's any way you could get this fixed for me, get it fixed for me. And he put in my mind to reach out to a certain individual, and I reached out to this individual. And within a week of putting it in his lap for him to decide what to do, I got the funding. And the very next week, I got it fixed. Because what I had to end up doing was releasing what I wanted to him. And it wasn't about me being better looking. I got to the point where I realized that has zero to do with my walk, one. But two, it didn't help me at all. It kept me depressed when I thought about it, and it kept me distant. And it was a lie. It was simply a lie. But what he did care about was, and when he says that he cares about the things we care about, he cares about me releasing my requests to him fully with no expectations back. Okay? People say, well, you pray with expectation. Yeah, I expect to hear from him, but that don't mean I pray with expectation to hear the right answer that I want. I expect to hear from God every time I pray. That's my expectation. He never says to pray with the expectation to get your prayers answered the way you want. My expectation is that I hear from God, and that could be an instantaneous and resounding no. And he's answered my prayer for his sake, because he knew what I had to do for him later on. I didn't know at the time. Didn't know. I know now. You have to get to that point where you surrender all. That old hymn, I surrender all, A-L-L, all of it. And that includes your view of yourself, good or bad, your goals and aspirations, good or bad, and your future, good or bad. This is the first step, though, is realizing that you have been keeping him from doing what he needs to do. He has a plan, but he can't work it with you in the way. And it might seem small to you, just an ugly duckling statement, but you're telling him he lies. That's big. To tell the God of the universe that you're a liar.
Yeah, I never viewed it like that at all, ever.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, it breaks my heart.
So, like I said, usually it's something that needs to be heard that the devil tries to keep you from. But that's the step I made. I had to release all of my mess, all of my view of me, and fully release it to him, because if I didn't, I'd be stuck. I'd be on a hamster wheel for the rest of my life. You know? And who wants to be a stinking hamster? when you could be a ferret or a cat. I'd prefer to be a cat. I don't want to be a hamster. Cats can roam free. That's what he wants me to do, climb a tree, hunt rabbits. I mean, it's a bad analogy in some ways, but I don't want to be a hamster stuck on a wheel in a cage when he calls me to be free. Call yourself an eagle. I don't know, but you're right now you're behaving like a caged chicken.
Yeah. I've got a lot to ponder.
First step is take it to him. That's the very first step. Talk to him directly and bluntly that, hey, this is how I was viewing myself, and this is completely against how you view me, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's the first and biggest, hardest step. Once that's done, you'll be amazed. The doors just go, and you're like, oh, I can breathe. You'll be amazed. Trust me, you'll be amazed. But that first step is the one that you got to take.
And it's strange to feel so free, or to see that you are so wrong about so much.
So, you've helped a lot of people today. There are multiple people in the chat saying they needed to hear this, and they needed to know that they were in the same boat. They believed their own lies for a long time. So you're not the only ones. Only one that has been there and will be there and is there. But God. But God, right? But God. And he's not just going to let you flounder.
No, he's taking good care of me.
Okay. He's got you in this, so talk to him. I want to thank you for being willing to put your face on camera. Even though it took a little bit of finagling with the computer.
Yeah.
I thank you. And thank you, people in the audience who showed up. Share this video if you know someone that's going through the same thing. This has zero to do with self-value. It has to do with your value the way God sees you. Okay, people, I want you to understand. This whole movement of self-esteem, it starts with the very first word being wrong, self. God esteem, God's value, God's placement. It's nothing to do with you. See yourself the way God sees you. And a lot of things will go a lot better for you. And as I always say, wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.